Hi everybody, this is Chizaba. Welcome to Zuba's Wealth Lab, your guide to real world finance and creating wealth fearlessly. So this morning we're going to start working on a 2026 financial reset, which is great because we have 1 month left in 2025. And if 2025 has drained you, has stressed you, has humbled you financially, we want to start now to create a plan to make sure we hit January 2026 on a fresh start. So by the end of the live, we want to go through the exact money leaks to fix before January, a simple system to reset your budget, what to do about credit, about debt, about savings, and big money moves people tend to ignore and that always cost them a lot of money. So let's get comfortable and then just go through section by section how to reset financially for 2026. So before we jump in, you want to take stock and find out what is your number one money stress going into 2026. Is it bills? Is it debt? Is it not enough income? Is it overspending? And there are no wrong answers. We're just here to grow together. The most important thing is that you take stock of what your biggest money stress is so that you know the strategies and plans to begin to solve that. And if you are watching this on replay, comment anyway. I'm going to read every single one. And if there are subsequent or follow videos we need to do together, I will make sure to do those. So let's start by fixing money leaks before 2026. Number one is lifestyle creep. If you got a raise or you have an additional source of income, what tends to happen is we increase our spending to match the new money that is coming in. And so life gets more expensive the more money you're making. Sometimes not because it needed to be, but just because we had more money. We buy more things than we typically would buy. Maybe things we've always wanted, not necessarily needed, things we've always wanted, but now that there is more money, then we decide, well, let's spend on it. But there is a difference between a want and a need. I always talk about that. A need is something you cannot do without. A need is oxygen. A need is a house to live in. A need is clothes to wear to keep warm. A need is food to survive. But a want is something you can do without. A want is $1 million house compared to say $100,000 or $200,000 house. A want is an extra pair of shoes when you already have shoes that will do. A want is you're driving a second hand car and all of a sudden you decide you need a brand new 30,000, what, 80,000, $90,000 car that you are paying a car note on. And so there is a difference between wants and needs. And when we get some extra income, we tend to spend more on what we want and less on what we need. And so in 2026, we want to reverse that. If your income goes up, and we're going to go through ways to add extra income, when this extra income come in, your expenses need to stay the same, at least for a period of time until you get your financial ducks in a row. Number two money leak is subscriptions and small drains. I have a lot of videos about this. It's very common. I've been guilty of it too. Like all the $5, $10, $15 charges, it adds up to hundreds of dollars a year. Even if it's only for a few months. Let's say it's for 6 months. That's $60 at $10 a month. Could go somewhere else, could do something else, could easily be the minimum payment on two other credit cards to avoid you from getting dinged on your credit reports. So cancel aggressively. And you can re-add later if you need to. Like go through all your subscriptions. If there is something you haven't used in the past month, no more than 2 months, cancel it. You don't need it right now. Not you will need it, not the kids might need it. If it has literally not been used in a month, cancel it. Later down the road, if you find that you need it, then go back and re-add it. The number three money leak is high interest anything. Credit card, car notes, anything that has high interest. I was reading an article based on something Mark Cuban said, and Mark Cuban said credit card interest is the biggest enemy to building wealth. And so we'll talk about this in the depth segment, but you want to be aware of where you have high interest rates. Number four money leak is emotional stress spending. 2025 was stressful. It's not finished yet, so it might still be stressful. But buying your feelings is costing you peace later. And when I was younger, that's something I used to do. I would get upset and stressed and go window shopping and just buy things. But we will need to fix this, because that is money that is you're spending that is preventing you from building wealth. And then number five money leak, or the last one we'll talk about, is under earning. Sometimes we are too qualified or too talented for where we are working now. If that, sometimes we don't have a choice. Like where we are working, that's the job we can get. It's been difficult to get a job, so I'm not judging that. But sometimes we're in the job where we need to be, but we haven't even bothered to ask for a raise. You may or you may not get it, but asking for a raise at job is very important to do. At least let them say no. But if there is a chance that you're going to get some more money, not asking for a raise is costing you money. So on the earning segment of today's video, we are going to talk about that. And so let's start with making sure for 2026 you're able to reset your budget. You want to write down your actual monthly take home income. Don't guess what it actually is. And then list your bills by date, not category. So what is due on the 1st, what is due on the 2nd, on the 4th, on the 15th. Starting from the earliest to the latest. List all your bills by date, so that you are able to at least visualize and see just where your debt is, and which days, like, are they all grouped at the beginning of the month, are they all grouped at the middle of the month, are they all grouped at the end, is it scattered throughout the month. Compare that with the points of the month when money comes in. So for some of us, let's say you're paid once a month at the end of the month, but then all your bills are at the top of the month. You want to work to see if there is a way you can actually, like, call your credit card companies and all the people you have debt with to give you a different due date, so that it's closer to when you actually have cash inflow. That way, let's say you get paid at the end of the month, you're able to tackle your bills and you know what is left over, right? But if your bills are scattered throughout the month and you only get income at certain segments of the month, it makes it difficult to know. Just it's scattered and all over the place unless you actually have an actual budget that you have written out and you take a look at. So compare your bills by due dates and compare the dates with which you get money, and then call your credit card companies and they will give you any due date you want. Remember, they just want to get their money. Whatever date in the month they get it doesn't really matter to them as long as they get their money that month. So call them and make those due dates closer to when your inflow comes in, and it's going to make it easier to tackle your bills. And then if you are creating your budget, take a look at the money you have coming in. And a quick, easy budget rule to follow is 70-20-10. 70% of what you make goes to living, 20% goes to savings, and you do not want to cut out fun. You need fun money, 10% goes to fun. And if your 10% isn't enough for fun this month, save it and use it, add it to your 10% next month, or add it to 10% for the quarter, and then splurge on something. But make room for fun in your budget, otherwise, you're not going to be able to stick to it. So remember, 20% of your money goes to savings, no matter how little. No matter how little. Save some money, 10% for fun, and the rest of it goes to living and your debts and so on. And then step four, make sure every dollar has a job. You cannot leave money wandering around causing trouble or willy-nilly, right? So make sure every dollar gets a job. It's either going towards your debts and living expenses, or it's going towards your savings, or it's going towards fun. Every dollar needs to get a job. And then make sure you check your money weekly. Like, start now to put things in place so that starting January, you're in a good position to check your money weekly. Take a look at how you have done with spending and money that has come in. And again, we'll talk about in a few minutes ways to add extra income, like side hustle things you can do to help. There are other videos on my channel that talk about that. But make sure that you're checking on your money consistently. You can't just set a budget and leave everything to your imagination. You actually have to take a look at what is going on with your funds and with your money on a regular basis. So as we're coming to the year end, let's talk some tax and credit moves that have to be in place this December before you go into January. If you have a 401k, go and max it out. Put in all your contributions because it will help you in taxes. If you have a small business, a side hustle, if you are a content creator, if you're doing anything other than a W 2 job, go and gather your receipts. If you haven't been tracking your expenses, go and do it now. Then estimate your taxes. You can go onto irs.gov. I can post a link when the recording of this video is updated. Find your tax rate and use it, like if you fall within 15%, use it to estimate your taxes so you avoid surprises. Because January starts tax season as well, and when you start to put your taxes together, you don't want to be caught off guard. You want to at least have a ballpark estimate of what is going on. If you are self-employed, you work from home, start gathering expenses and receipts for your home office. Start taking a look at mileage, estimated taxes for Q4. These are things that can save you thousands. You do not want to ignore them, especially the expenses and the receipt side. Make sure you start to gather your receipts and put your expenses together this December. Don't wait till January. Anything between January and April tax related will stress you out. So you want to start making moves now that will help to reduce that stress. And then for your credit, for quick credit fixes, you want to pay your cards before the statement date. If you've got some extra cash, go in and put payments, or go in and make payments before the statement date. Contact your credit card company and see if they will give you a credit limit increase. However, if you already have too many credit cards, don't even do that. If the increase in credit limit is going to result in more spending, don't do that. Leave that alone. Asking for credit limit will help increase your credit score because they tend to look at your debt ratio, right? Like how much you've spent of your credit limit. So the more of your credit limit you have, the more it improves your credit score. But again, if you already have a lot of debts and you know yourself the best, you know you cannot avoid spending money once there is a credit limit, then leave it alone. Don't follow that. Set up auto pay for the minimums on your credit cards, especially if you have more than one, so that you don't forget. You don't want to get dinged for not paying your money on time. And do not get any new credit. Do not get any new credit. So these are ways to improve your credit score. But if you already have a lot of debt, don't get any new credit unless it's an emergency and you absolutely have to. It's a life or death situation. If not, don't get any new credit and just focus on paying down what you've already amassed. And speaking of debt, debt repayment. Here are two ways you can pay your debt. Snowball. There is they call it the snowball method, and it motivates you. So you start, let's say, you pay the minimum payment for all your debts. You have an extra $10. You put that extra $10 to the smallest debt you have. So you put the minimum payment plus $10 every month until you pay off the smallest one. And there is a rush of something that comes with paying off your debt. Well, that extra $10 plus the minimum payment you were making on the smaller debt, that is now extra money you have on the next debt up. The next debt above the smallest. So you're paying the minimum payment for that one, and the amount of money, minimum payment plus $10 that used to go to the smallest debt, you now add as extra to the next one until you pay it off. And then that minimum payment plus the previous minimum payment plus that extra $10 together goes on top of the minimum payment for the next one. And you see how it continues to snowball and snowball and snowball. And eventually you get to a point where you are able to pay off your biggest debt. There is the avalanche method that tackles debt from the biggest one to the smallest one. And then there is a hybrid version, like you want to pick based on what your personality is, not what TikTok is. I don't advocate any method. I'm just giving you tools and information so you can do what it is you need to do to pay down your debt and to reset your debt. And then now let's talk savings. There is a 3 account system that you need to have for savings. There is emergency savings, there is short-term savings, and there is the future use savings. So in 2026, we want to stop mixing emergency money with our target funds, right? Emergency is money you set aside for, I don't know, God forbid it, but the roof starts to leak, or there is an accident or medical bills, something, a medical emergency happens and you need funds. Then that is what the emergency is. So whatever money you put in that account, you do not touch. There is a savings for future you, the you want to become in the future. If you want to take a class, you want to get certified in something, you want to get a license, the money or the funds for that you put into the account for the future you. Again, it's an investment into your future. So you want to look for a high yield savings account so that it makes money, but again, that's something you do not touch. And then there's the short term savings, money you set aside that you can dip into as needed. You know, if funds run short on your checking account, then you have the short term savings account. So make sure in 2026 we're not mixing all of these, especially our emergency money. Let emergency funds be just that, emergency funds. And as we are going into 2026, make sure you have a wealth plan. In, in the first quarter, maybe you want to stabilize. In the second quarter, you want to build. In the third quarter, you want to multiply. And in the fourth quarter, you want to review and refine. And so, what that means is start by stabilizing where you are. So, the first 3 months in 2026, getting everything stable, you have worked on redefining or resetting your debt due date, your credit card due date, so that it's closer to when you're making money. That way, it's easy to make payments and your debt due dates are not spread all over the month. You want to stabilize what's going on with your budgets. You want to build a habit of taking a constant look at what is going on with your money. And then starting from April for Q2, you want to start to build. Okay, putting things and systems into place for what it is you want in the future. In Q3, start to multiply. So you're looking at side hustles. There are a lot of online ones, and in the previous video I talked about a few, including working as a remote notary public, or tutoring, or content management, or email management for content creators. And there are a lot of sites out there, and if you are into creating content, places like Join Brands that will allow you upload videos for money. um Remote notary publics, I've gone through being a notary public, and depending on your state, it's as easy as taking a class. It's a very low cost way to get certified or get licensing or get commissioned in something that you can easily do online. So that is a really great side hustle, which is a notary public. There are still tutors. If there are a lot of people that still need tutoring, I think we're under the impression that because of Chat GPT, people don't need tutors anymore, but that is not true. There are people who still need tutors, and they're like, Chat GPT will help you put it together, but somebody needs to edit it, make sure it makes sense. And there are other subjects other than writing and essays and English where people still need tutoring. Like tutoring is still a vibrant business, and now it's easy to set up your own, to do it online. You can tutor through Zoom, or if you don't have the equipment to set up your own, you can get in touch with tutoring companies like Wisant and so on. And then with the boom of content creation, there is actually a lot of things you can do with content creators, help that they need that's not really technical. And so, for example, crafting hooks for videos. There are a lot of content creators who need that. If you are handy with designs, it's not just a designing for a blog or for a website. There are content creators who need people who will help them design their thumbnail or have suggestions for their thumbnail, or they have checklists and packages. There are those who need help putting together their emails to brands and so on. There is a lot of help you can offer in the content creator space. And so you want to go looking for those. Again, those are low cost ways to get into something that's going to give you some extra income. But that's thinking of this month of December and 2026. You want to start to look into things to bring in additional funds. And I will say one last thing about that. Be honest about your time. That's the other place where we start looking into a lot of things we can do to bring in extra income. And it feels like it doesn't work because we've taken on too much at once. If you are doing a little bit of everything, you end up doing a lot of nothing. And so be honest with your time. If you've got only 2 hours a week to spare, then look for something that will allow you to dedicate 2 hours. Don't take on something that needs 20 hours. And on the subject of side hustles, another one that I see is growing is people have a lot of emails. I need somebody to help them clean it up and manage it. So I know people who are like, I have 15,000, 18,000, 20,000 emails in my inbox. It takes a lot of time to clean up all of that. And so there are people who need help for email management. So that is something else to look into. And then after you settled into a side hustle, then you want to review and refine, make sure it's working for you, and start with one thing. It doesn't mean you can't move on to something else, but pick something that you will stick to for at least 90 days because it gives you time to actually dedicate your attention to it, and then see if it's something you want. Like if you dabble into something too quickly and you don't give it time to settle and give yourself time to actually work through it, then you don't know if it's going to work for you or not. So pick something that is you're going to stick to, you're interested enough in to stick to for 90 days, and make sure once again that you pick something that you actually have time to dedicate to. And so the core three things as we wind up 2025 and going to 2026 is to increase income. It's to automate money, build those savings cushions, pay off debt. And remember this, wealth is built in long seasons, not lucky moments. There are people who strike out, they're lucky and they win the lottery, come into a lot of money, get inheritance. And that's great, but that's not the norm. That's an exception. And so remember, it's a marathon. Building wealth is a marathon. It's not a quick sprint. There are portions or segments of it where you might need to sprint, but building wealth and getting out of debt is a marathon. But make sure to celebrate small wins. Small wins matter. If you've managed not to overspend by $50, that is a small win. Celebrate it. When you manage to pay off a small credit card, that's a win. Celebrate it. So celebrate your small wins, be honest with yourself, and keep at it. Never give up. You never, never, never give up. So thank you so much for spending the morning with me. You deserve a peaceful, wealthy 2026. And this morning was your first step. So I'm going to have a 2026 financial reset checklist that I have created for this live. Make sure you download it. If you're new here, follow the Bass Wealth Lab for weekly money content that actually makes sense and for inspiration on creating, building, and maintaining wealth fearlessly. You can find me here on IG. You can find me here on TikTok, on IG, and you can find me on YouTube. I love you all. I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week and a wonderful month. I'll see